Everybody, John Newman here, and welcome to episode 10 of Welcome to the Machine. And if you know Matt Aitchison, we did a lot of promo for him, and this is not that guy. But that's the cool thing about this show is, unlike a podcast, podcasts, we can record things ahead of time, and we can always slide somebody in. But life happens, especially the more success you see in life, the busier you get, and things pop up. Unfortunately for Matt Aitchison, he came down with the flu and wasn't able to be with us tonight, but we got him back on the schedule. And it's 2 weeks in a row. It's like, I don't know how many out there people are Capitals fans, but we've been through like 20 years of the same thing happening. We're on a streak of 2 weeks in a row. We've had a guest that has had other obligations, but we always have cool people to talk to. So today we bring back Brentin. You were our first guest, weren't you?
Pilot.
Yeah. And Brentin knows me really well, so we're going to kind of flip the script here, and Brentin's basically going to just interview me and ask me questions. So this could get a little bit exciting.
A lot of bit exciting.
So Brentin, we've had a kind of interesting couple days, and I don't know if you're going to ask me any questions about that. I don't know what you're going to ask me, so it's kind of scary because.
Let me know when you're ready to turn over the mic, and I'll tell you what we're doing.
All right, let's do it.
All right, sweet. All right, so first of all, it's a pleasure to be able to flip the script and interview you. One of these things with these podcasts is that we hear bits and pieces of your story throughout all these episodes, and today is a really unique opportunity to go through your journey, and here's how I see it being structured. We're going to start with, I'm going to ask you, what is your end game? Which this now gives you a second to think about it. And then we're going to break up your life into like phases. However you've always seen these phases, whether they're work-related, relationship-related, just age brackets. And I'd like to just give a very good structure to like the phases of your life, why you define them as the phases, and go a little bit deeper. And we're going to pull out some Newman nuggets out of each phase. And then we have a couple really, really powerful questions at the end, and also little nuggets that will give a blink into your future. What are your next plans? What are your next steps? What's going on in John Newman world in the next 12, 24 months? So how does that sound for a structure?
I like the structure because, and I should have known that you would have some structure because I'm not a structured person. But hey, you know me well enough to know that I just kind of talk from the hip and just shoot from the hip. So I have no idea what's going to come out of my mouth. But hey, I'm not afraid of many things except for heights. So let's do it. Sweet.
All right, John. First question. What is your end game?
So when you say end game, like, like I'm dead, like that's the end game is I'm dead. No, I mean, like, what do you mean by that?
Whatever comes to mind. It's really exactly that. What is your end game for this one life that we have to live? We hear a lot about, well, you could be a tree or a bus. You're a human. What is your end game for this life? What do you want to have accomplished by the end of this life? Where are you headed right now? Then we're going to break it up into your journey getting there.
So this is going to sound weird and might even sound like egotistical, and it's not meant to come across that way. But I want to have the world's largest funeral. Like, if 50 people show up at my funeral, I've impacted 50 people. If 5,000 people show up, I've impacted 5,000 people. So impact as many people's lives as possible. And I believe, just from my spiritual beliefs, that that's my obligation. Like that's it's not even like my why. I'm just trying to fulfill somebody else's why. I have a purpose here on earth, and I'm just trying to follow somebody else's path. And I believe that my purpose is to impact as many people's lives as possible.
I love that. And has that always been the plan?
No.
And when did you see it? When's the last, like, looking at today, looking backwards, when's the last time that it had the most major shift to you?
Wow. So we're going to break something in probably like decades. So I have to kind of like go, I'll tell you, I've always had this, this thing about personal development and what kind of makes people tick. I mean, I think that hit me somewhere around when like Personal Power 1 came out, which Tony Robbins and I I remember staying up late at night watching infomercials, and I ordered his tapes. And my dad always, my dad was a pretty big reader, like read newspapers and read books and stuff like that. Like, I remember seeing like Think and Grow Rich around the house and How to Win Friends and Influence People. And I read a few of those books. So something clicked to me about personal development. But it, and then I'll fast forward, and I was probably somewhere in my teens, 15 to 18 years old, I'm guessing. I've always been a hustler. Like, I've always wanted to make money, but that didn't answer your question. Where it really, really hit me though, like where I really if I had to pick a day, it was when my wife and I moved into our first house. And she made a comment, and we have a nice house. We're still in that house, but she made a comment to me that how grateful she was for the house and how happy she was. And she basically said, you know, I don't remember her exact words, but something along the lines of, I never saw myself in a house like this. And I had a pretty dysfunctional, just a chaotic upbringing. And I remember thinking, well, why is that? Why wouldn't she have a house like this? And it occurred to me somewhere in that moment or somewhere in that time that you can take different people from similar backgrounds or even completely opposite backgrounds, and some people think crazy big and some people put limitations on, and I always want to know why. And then I always had this thing that I wanted to start, like when I grow up one day, I wanted to start this this facility that would teach people how to dream. So we'd have books, we'd have computers, we'd bring in like motivational speakers, and we could teach people how to dream. So I don't know if that answers the question, but I would say it started in my teens, but it really became clearer in my 20s. And then it became really, really clear in my 40s.
Cool. And let's pause right there. Now, when you look at your life and up to this point, if you broke it down into phases, using ages, what would those life phases be, and why would you break it out into about those age range?
Wow. So I have, and I think many people have, key moments in their life that impact them in some way, shape, or form. It can be good or bad. I remember very, very vividly, my parents were divorced, and I think I was 7 years old, if I remember correctly. But I remember very, very vividly when my dad, I think, left the house. It was a sunny day. We had a Ford Torino that was off-white, maybe a tannish color, and I was in the back of the car upset because my dad was leaving. I think I was about 7. I played sports. I played baseball growing up, and I remember throwing in the 12 and under county or state championship. I threw the last pitch, and I remember how I felt. And that was the first time that I felt like a winner, you know, because I was through the last pitch of the game, and we won the game. And I felt what it liked to win. So that was probably 12 years old. Always a good student. From a grade wise, was a good student, but I caused a lot of problems. So I would say up until about 15, I was a student, a class clown, a troublemaker, and I'm still a troublemaker, but and then didn't have a whole lot of friends. Like I was kind of a geeky kind of guy. Would stay at home on Friday nights and watch Dukes of Hazzards. And then I got into a troubled phase. Like,
so before you get super far into the details, if you could just outline, like if you can give the audience ages, like when I think of my life, I think of 0 to about 21 right after college. Then I think of 21 after college to about 30. And then I think of the last 10 years as another phase. Like if you could break down like 3 phases of your life, what would it be? Because I would like to target deeper questions inside of that before we get into the whole story. I just want to hear your 3 phases.
So I would say it's almost like and just to let everybody know, this is different, and we're also going to allow other people to call in live, so they can call in live and ask questions too. It's the first time we've done this, so
that'll be really cool. And when they hear about your 3 phases, or if you see 4, then they'll be able to come in and ask a direct question as we go deeper. Because I really want them to see the blueprint of your life, because we would lose them by going every single age up until this point. We need a blueprint for today's discussion.
It's hard phases. I mean, it was curiosity / learning / education. I mean, I went to school, graduated high school, and then went to college and graduated. In between there was a trouble phase. 18 or 16 to basically 30 was a trouble phase. I got in a lot of trouble. But I also went to school and did things, and I also worked. In my mid-20s to mid-30s, it was all about making money. Like everything was about, and that actually was probably in my early 20s to mid-30s, actually probably 40, all about making money. Everything was about money. Money. And then I made a lot of money and then lost a lot of money in 2007, 2008. In my 40s, it became about purpose, about passion, about what am I really here for? Because I made a sizable amount of money in the 2000s. I thought I made a lot of money at least. And basically that was mainly stripped away from me. So I had nothing. You remember the car that I drove. And what I realized is that I'm just as happy as a person with nothing as I was when I had a lot. And then that led me to dive deeper into what does that mean? So for the last 5 years, I would say it's meaning. What's my meaning? What's the purpose? What's diving very, very introspective. So maybe that helps you out. It was very, very young, insecure. Then I overcompensated for that by just trying to be successful and make money. And then now I'm coming back to a place where it's secure, but I'm at a deep level. I know who I am, and I know what makes me happy.
That's really great. Thank you for sharing that. That gives us a really clear understanding, because you're not the first person or the only person who's ever gone through similar phases like that. And now I'm excited to delve in a little bit about why was that even a phase? Why did you transition from one phase to another, and what was the reason for it? So let's start at the beginning. You talked about in like phase 1 per se. You talk about a lot of insecurity. I mean, you were just a troublemaker. I'm sure a badass. And inside of that, where did it click when you said, you know what, I'm going to make up for it by making money? And then you jumped into phase 2. Where was that transition?
So, probably I went from being not popular at all to then literally within a year being like most likely to be seen at a party. So I went from insecure guy watching Dukes of Hazzards on a Friday night, not a whole lot of friends, to most likely to be seen at a party. So I overcompensated to mask my insecurities. So I had a car. I would go out and almost in a way kind of like buy friends, because I had a car, so I'd pick people up. So, and then that made me feel secure because I had a lot of friends. So my world got big, and then at a period it got small again. The insecurities went from having friends that made me feel secure. Then it became to, I need to make money. And the more money I make, that will make me feel better. So first I would say it was, how do I become popular? And then it was like, that only works but so much as people grow up. You know, when you're 25 years old, there's no most likely to be seen at a party anymore. Then it became, who makes the most money?
Yeah.
And then it became something deeper. Does
Yeah.
that help?
Yeah. Oh, that's a great answer. Thank you. And then that transition from making that money to, I want to live a life that's more purposeful and fulfillment. This phase that you're in right now, could you talk about when did that click for you that money wasn't the only thing to life?
In my early 30s, let's see, 2003, I quit my job. You know, I quit my job at Merrill Lynch. So I walked away from a very, very stable, at my age, high income career,
Mm-hmm.
and to do something I was passionate about. Now that's something my dad always told me. My dad always said, you know, you have to do what you love. And I woke up one day and didn't love what I was doing. So because I make quick decisions, sometimes don't think about them, I quit. Like 2 weeks, I'm out. And I'm gonna get involved into real estate investing. And then you start making money, and then I went through this spiritual journey. It was a whole nother thing that happened in my life. So I went to this place where it was, what is meaning of life? And I wasn't a believer in, and this is just me. So me talking, I wasn't a believer in God, and I had a bunch of things happen in my life. And now I'm like, my faith is like, I'm like weird about my faith, and I'm okay with that. When I found that, I found like this sense of like peace around me, but I still wanted to make money. And then I lost everything. I think it was when I lost everything that it really clicked. Like, what is really, really important in my life? Like,
Mm-hmm.
because there are periods of time, and you know, I was foreclosed on. I mean, people can research this stuff. Like, I lost houses. I didn't know how I was going to feed my family, which led to, you know, some dark, you know, things in my head. But when you come through something like that and you're okay, like, oh, I have no money, but I can still be happy. Like, what does that mean? And then that took me to another deeper place. Like, don't get me wrong. I like to make money. I mean, I like to make money, but other things provide me with much more happiness, much more joy.
Yeah. Yeah. And what role did your family play in the journey of, and I mean by family, everyone ranging from parents to Nicole to children, your family played in the role of these three phases, and, and
Like,
specifically this last phase.
like literally, that's like a whole nother book. I mean, growing up, I had a lot of resentments against family members. Tons. It actually wasn't until I had kids that I started to understand parenting. And I think somebody asked me, or maybe it was in the last podcast, what's the most difficult challenge you've ever had? Like, for me, it's being a parent. There's nothing more difficult. Nothing. There's no business. Nothing is more difficult than being a parent. A business, I can lose the business, I can screw up, and I can do it all over again. Like, I don't get that chance with kids. When I had kids, I came to realize that my parents were they perfect? No. Just like I'm not a perfect parent, but they did everything they could do to benefit their children. So I let go of a lot of resentments, which were like, it's like all the weight's lifted off of your shoulders. My wife, I believe, is an angel. I literally believe that my wife saved me. Almost to the depth of, I sometimes wonder, like, was her purpose to save me? Like, was that, like, is she my angel and that's her purpose? Because that's how highly I think of her. And I couldn't do anything without my wife. Nothing at all. My in-laws couldn't do anything without, like, every single person, my brother, every single person in my family has had a role in my life. And I wouldn't be who I am today without every single one of those people. And I even believe that most of the people that, like you, like Jeff, like all of these people that maybe I mentor or I coach or whatever we call that, I believe that every one of those people have a role in my life. Like, they're part of my book.
I love that. Super empowering. And what was really interesting was today, you and I were having the conversation. For those of you who know me, you know that I'm quickly learning that life is more, in my opinion, life is more about the future generations than it is us, because they have, in theory, more time than we do. And if we play our cards correctly, that we could provide them with more resources to make this world, to make a larger impact on this world. And again, resources doesn't always have to be financial resources. And having a niece and nephew, no kids, I can't speak to it, although I can only imagine what role having children has with your journey, the accountability that you have as a business person, as a husband, modeling good, great marriage for your children, and then being a great parent. Could you talk a little bit about the accountability that's brought onto you by having children, and how, because some people in this world might not see it as accountability. I know you do. It's accountability because you want to impact them.
Well, and we have a caller coming in. First, let me tell you, like, dude, I'm not a perfect parent. I mean, I do so many things, and I don't want to say wrong, but like, it's funny, we were at a charity event today for Red Day, and there was a book on the bookshelf, and it says, the title of the book is What to Expect When You're Expecting. Like, it's a book about parenting. Dude, I've read those books. Like, I knew it when I saw it. I've read the books. The books don't help, because every single human being, and that parenting will teach you a lot about business, because what you'll realize is that every single human being is different. Like, they're different people. We can't talk to them the same way. We can't expect them to conform to certain things just because that's what I understand. And parenting will teach you that, because I have 3 kids that are all awesome kids, but they all have to be taught differently. They have to be communicated with differently. They have to, and I'm strong in some areas and weak in other areas. I'm a terrible teacher. Like, that sounds weird, but I'm a terrible teacher. I might be a decent coach. I might be a decent to inspire somebody. And I think we have Kaysen Sean Mitchell on board. What's up, Kaysen?
Hey, how's it going?
First ever caller? Is that true?
Yeah, it is. I didn't even know that my video camera just went off, and I was like, oh.
You and I have similar backgrounds, my friend.
Oh yeah, we do. Yeah. I was just wanting to ask John, like, when did you consider yourself successful in your life? Like, at what point in your life did you consider yourself successful?
Phenomenal question. I would tell you there are multiple times that I felt successful, but they all had different meanings. And I'll explain to you. When we won the state championship, I felt successful.
Mm-hmm.
When because I threw the last pitch, okay, hurrah, rah, 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 rah. Mm-hmm. But that was a fleeting moment of success, because, the game's over. We lose the next game and that's gone. And so you're searching for that, almost like, I want to say I was searching for that high again.
Yeah.
When I graduated from college, I felt successful, because it took me 7 years, but finally I did it. When I got married, I felt successful. But what I will really tell you today was 2 weeks ago when a bunch of people threw a surprise party for me.
Really?
Had nothing to do with money. It had to do with a bunch of people showing up because I've impacted them in some way. And to me, that was the best drug that my wife, kids might be watching. I've used drugs, so I know a little bit about drugs.
Yeah.
And that feeling, though, was one of the best feelings I've ever had. When I got married, when I had my first kids, the more that I've impacted people, the more that I think I'm actually successful. It will never be about dollar signs in my bank.
Absolutely. I love that.
Does that help? I mean, it was a journey. It was like you reach a level of success, and then you reach another level, and you reach another level. And for me now, what I see right now for the whatever time I have left here on earth is I will define my success by impacting people. Like that's my scorecard now.
Impact and influence.
Impacting and influencing people, which once again, for me, I believe is a spiritual thing for me. Like that's a spiritual journey. And I believe that that's my duty.
Absolutely.
John, how do you define impacting people? It can be a very airy phrase because many can construe it in so many different ways. How do you define impacting people?
So it could be something, and Brentin, you've seen this. We've been to Austin, and Austin has a large homeless population. And what do I always do to the homeless guys, Brentin?
You always have conversations that end in some sort of donation.
Some sort of donation. Do I tip Uber drivers? And you always say, dude, why are you tipping an Uber driver?
Well, I say, why are you double tipping the Uber driver? Because I just tipped them. So yeah, you are tipping them.
Brentin, impacting people for me can be something as giving a homeless guy $20. It can be making somebody smile. It can be mentoring them.
You make me smile all the time.
Hey, Kasem, thank you, Sarah. Thank you very much, Kasem. You were the first one, so you'll always be remembered, and we'd love to have you back.
It's an awesome question, too, by the way.
It can be that their life is better because of something that I've given them, I've said to them, I've experienced with them. I believe that that's impacting people for me.
Now, when you're impacting people, do you account for your strengths? Do you ask yourself throughout your days of where can I truly add the most amount of value to someone? Or are you in discovery mode with them? Are you finding out what they're looking for?
I'm usually in discovery mode, and I don't give advice to people. You know this. I share stories usually. And sometimes those stories can be 45 minutes to get to a point, but it's not as much advice. It's more of, here's what I've experienced and here's what I've seen. Because I don't really know a whole lot. I just know what I've been through and what I've seen. And what I've read.
It's a super fascinating idea because I know in this world, I mean, it's some form or fashion, everyone's here to impact somebody else or impact others. And when they say somebody else or others, that could mean for someone, it could mean everyone in the world. It could mean those who need it the most. It could mean just their family. I would love to hear from the audience in the comments of when someone asks you, who are you looking to impact? Who is that? Because that who is so important because you can build your entire model, your entire life around that who. Because there are a lot of people out here that just asking that question, they may self-discover who they're looking to impact. Because you told me this, John, you told me it sometimes only takes to impact one person who may impact one person, who may impact one person, who in turn may impact 3, 5, 11, and then the entire world. So I find it interesting I always find it interesting of like who means the most to others when they're talking about impacting people?
You know, and Brentin, and you and I talked about this briefly today. About how I get myself into crazy conversations with people or meet crazy people or things like that.
Crazy situations.
In crazy situations. And part of that is because I'm open to listening to everybody. Like the homeless guy that I meet, there's something to learn from that person. There's something to learn from every single human being that we come in contact with. And if we take the time to listen, that person might be the who, but we have to take a moment to pause usually and just shut up and listen without any expectation that we're getting something from it.
So on that note, you know, I'm a big 80-20 guy, and I also I believe in the philosophy of putting oxygen on your mask sometimes to help others. So what advice would you give to those who say, well, if I stop and I talk to every single person every single day about themselves, and yet my life's just started to fall apart because I didn't put the oxygen mask on myself? Where's that fine line of you need to focus on you before you go and help others all the time? And how can you manage those two?
Yeah, and when I just be clear, like I don't go around and just every single person that I see, how can I help you? How can I help you? How can I help you? But I do trust my intuition. So I trust that, and for me, this comes back to my faith, I believe. I trust that if I run into somebody 2 or 3 times in strange situations, like there's something there usually. And but I'm also somewhat of a selfish person from the standpoint of, in business, I mean, how many times my phone was ringing 50 million times a day. I didn't stop and answer the phone all the time because I was doing something else at that time that I needed to get done that was more impactful.
And I got you on the philosophy of if you don't have that number saved in your phone, don't answer.
Yes, yeah. Which saved me so much more time.
So you can spend that time with those who matter most, or you can spend that time answering the phone calls of those that you actually already know and they're in your 20% per se. Yeah,
and I don't, and this is also probably one of my weaknesses. You know, if you look at personality assessments, I'm a through the roof eye. Like, you know, I love talking, but those who know me think that I'm somewhat, or may not know me that well, think I might be unapproachable. Like, you know, John's always focused on John. And then those that know me really well know that, dude, I'm a high I. So I have this kind of weird, I'm an extreme extrovert in tight circles, but I'm an extreme introvert in large circles, if that makes any sense.
You're pulling from both ends. And the question is, when do you know which end to pull from?
Brentin, you know me, I'm not a planner. I'm not a very strategic person when it comes. I'm very much trust my gut intuition in a lot of ways. And I'm trying to become more purposeful about planning as my life gets bigger. I have to, because I am being pulled in multiple different directions. It comes down to priorities. Like I do prioritize. You ask Nicole, like, you know, is cutting the lawn a priority to me? Nope. Like, I'll let that grass grow 2 feet tall and won't care about what my neighbors think. Like, that would not bother. Now, luckily I hire somebody to do that. I don't like to do things that I don't like to do. So if I'm having fun and I can feel my passion coming out in a conversation, I will probably continue that. If I'm doing something and my battery is being drained, then I probably try and steer away from that. So I trust my feelings, I guess is what I'm saying.
You know, we were talking about it yesterday in the car of like, what 3 questions would you ask a psychic if you had the opportunity?
Yeah.
And I shared my questions with you.
Ooh.
I don't believe What?
So
I don't believe I ever asked you. What are your 3 questions? You had 3 questions to ask a psychic. And just to give the audience some perspective, my 3 were, who needs my help the most right now? When am I going to die? And how am I going to die? So that gives you some perspective of like my fears. But go ahead, John.
So I'll just tell you an interesting story. I told you I saw a psychic. Nicole and I both saw one, and I did ask the question of when I was going to die, and I don't even care to mention it now because it doesn't make a difference, and I don't believe in that anymore. So it doesn't. I don't want to think about it. It was 65, by the way. Basically means I got 20 years left, so I got a lot of shit to do. But I don't buy that. I don't believe in the psychic stuff because I can't believe in a psychic if I believe in God. So God's going to take me away whenever he wants to take me away, and I don't even think about when I'm going to die. So I wouldn't ask that. I did ask that question, but today I wouldn't ask that question.
That's really good insight, by the way.
What 3 questions would I ask? I would want to know from the psychic, what is my purpose here on this earth? Like,
it's interesting. This whole podcast is built around that, and that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I'm always seeking that. That is, dude. Wow. So this is why I love doing this, because things just things literally hit me, because you never find it. Like, that's my journey. Like, it's the journey towards we didn't even script this. Like, it's the journey towards fulfillment. I don't know if I'm there. I'm always seeking it, but that's what I'm seeking. I'm not seeking money. I'm not seeking prestige. I'm not seeking fame and fortune. Yeah. Do I want to be in a rap video? Yes, I do. Would I love to be in a TV show? Sure. But I'm seeking constant fulfillment. Like, what does that mean? So I'm always asking my question, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? And then I trust how I feel, and the better I feel about things, I believe the closer I'm getting. So
there's a lot of intuition in that. And it's interesting. I have the live feed up on Facebook on the side on my cell phone. So for all of our listeners right now live, when you ask questions or you make comments, I am watching those, and I'll find a clever position to ask those questions and add in those points. So I want to also encourage everyone to ask questions. And John, not to interrupt the flow, to actually add to the flow, Nima asked earlier, he asked, how can someone find his or her purpose in life and know that is the right one? So here we are getting a little deep right now. What would you respond to Nima?
First off, I don't know. So this is hard. We've done a lot of classes and talks about Big Why, and I don't know if you know this, but I've never really shared mine, and I don't share it for a reason. I don't know if I found my purpose in life. Meaning that I don't believe that I found my wife. That was not John's conscious decision. Matter of fact, I wasn't even supposed to be at the place where she was supposed to be. And I was dating another girl that I've been dating for 6 years. I had no intentions of finding a wife, but I was put in this position. And literally that night I told a mutual friend of ours that I'm going to marry this girl. Like that night, I'm in a 6-year relationship or 7 years. I wasn't supposed to be there. Now, yes, was I probably drunk? Probably. Was I looking for a piece of tail? No, I wasn't. You can ask Nicole that, because that took several months, actually. That's a whole nother story. A whole nother story there. I don't believe that I found my why. I believe that the more questions I asked myself, the closer my why found me. I wasn't consciously saying, I want to find my why. just like I wasn't consciously looking for my wife.
So what, in a time where right now there's a lot of conversation around that of like, I'm out seeking my why, not I'm living life and my why is seeking me, while I'm consciously aware of what's happening. What advice would you give to those who are looking for something to drive them right now if they don't have that why yet? They're looking for something to drive them.
Dude, do something. No, literally, like you don't think your way there. Like, I didn't lock myself in a cave and say, okay, I'm going to come out when I figured it all out. Like, I just went out and did things.
But do what?
Do whatever. I don't care. Just do anything. So, like, give me an example. Like, if you're in school, go to class and listen. Pay attention. Self-evaluate how you feel. How is the information coming across? Is that something I care to learn more about? If you are trying to figure out a career path, just do something. Go work at Walmart and then realize, I hate this. Okay, cool. You cross that one off the list. What did I like about working at Walmart? Oh, I liked about working at Walmart this right here. Okay, then go expand on that. And then just continue to cross things. Like, no, I keep this list of things I never want to do again. So if I'm doing something and I absolutely hate it, okay, this does not give me passion or enjoyment. Let me figure out how I don't have to do this anymore. So I go all in. If it feels good, I want more. So I ask myself the question, what is it about this that I liked? How can I make this happen more often? I pay attention to how I feel, what other people say. I'm just aware. I mean, but
and what drives you on a day-to-day basis if you're on this never-ending journey towards your quote-unquote big why?
Because that's I'm accountable to my kids. I'm accountable to God. I'm accountable to you. I'm accountable to anyone that's watching this podcast. And I believe that it is up to me, that I have one life at this. And I've experienced quite a bit of, you have life and you have death. I've experienced quite a bit of death. And I don't know how much time I have. So I believe that while I'm here, I owe it to not only myself, but to other people and God to become the best version of myself while I'm here. So that's what drives me, to just become the best version of myself.
I love that.
What else are we going to do? Say I'm going to be an average version of myself? Like, and I can go to extremes too, which can cause problems, because it's like, oh, I'm going to this rabbit trail and I go all in on something.
Nicole said, don't forget about your wife, which I'm sure Nicole's been on since the beginning. A lot of this has been built around, like, your life has sort of been built around the relationships. It's interesting.
Oh, yeah.
It's like when a new relationship comes in your life, how does that impact your direction?
But look at you. Like, a little punk kid walks in here and he was like, I need help in my stock picking class or whatever. I could have at that time said, dude, I don't have time to meet with this little kid. Like, get out of here. But I took some time to meet with you, and then that led to another thing, which led to another thing, which led to another thing. So it wasn't me impacting your life as much as you impacting my life. And everyone in my life has had that kind of impact on me. And my wife, I wouldn't be where I am if it wasn't for my wife.
Tons of gratitude. And I have always appreciated you as a mentor. And I've always talked about that in this world of a lack of authenticity and transparency, a lot of it stems from everyone wanting to look successful, when in reality, it's because of the people in their life of why they're successful, and not enough credit's given to those who deserve it. and you deserve a ton of credit in my book, and I appreciate that. And I know that we could go on and on with the list of the amount of people that have impacted us individually, like mentors and so on and so forth. So looking at your life right now, what are you most grateful for?
So this is, I don't want this to be like a God show, you know, but for me, number one, I'm most grateful for my relationship with God. I'm most grateful for my faith, because when you have faith, you kind of have no fear. Because I go through life and I believe that what's supposed to happen is going to happen. And I just have to have the faith to believe that that's going to happen. We were talking about going to Mexico yesterday, to a place that may not be one of the safest places in the world. And Nicole asked me about that. I said, hey, if that's how God wants me to go out, that's how he wants me to go out. Why should I be afraid of it? So that's number one. Matter of fact, that is like the biggest thing, because that impacts so many other different areas. Because I could say I'm grateful for my finances, but that's not me. I'm grateful for the people in my life. I'm grateful for my desire to never stop learning.
Why?
Because if you stop learning, you die. Whether it's physically or mentally, you're dead.
What do you do to learn then, John?
I read, I talk to people, I pay attention to experiences. I invest a lot in myself. I invest a lot in other people. It's just always a student. I mean, I'm always trying to learn something new. It's the most fascinating thing to me, is to talk to other people that have lived before me or lived in the same with, and just ask them questions. Because the truth comes out when you talk to enough people. You start to see patterns, and the truth comes out. So I want to learn from everybody.
It's interesting because, again, we encourage questions here in the live feed, one of the many perks of tuning in live. And you talk about how powerful it is to learn from others and ask the right questions. In fact, here's a question from one of our dedicated viewers, Jonathan Kirk. What's up, buddy? He asked, how did you know that night that you were going to marry Nicole?
Might have been the beers or the shots, whatever it was. I had been in relationships, and I knew what I liked about those relationships and knew what I didn't like about those relationships. I like women that can dance, and my wife is a phenomenal dancer. This is going to sound crazy. I like women in a pair of jeans, and she looks great in a pair of jeans. It was through talking to her and just getting to know her at a deeper level that I knew that that's the person that I wanted.
Could you elaborate on that? Because there's definitely more to this. And the reason why I want you to elaborate on it is because there are a lot of people out here right now that may be questioning their current relationship, looking and seeking that hopeless romantic side of them for another relationship, and or just evaluating all relationships in their life. So this isn't just about like, how do you know when you know it's your wife? It's more about, how do you know it's the person that you want to spend the most amount of time with that you have on earth for the remainder? How did you know?
Because I felt good. And I don't mean like physically, like sex. I mean, I felt good. Like, this is, once again, I think this is a detriment and it's also an asset. It's an asset and a liability. I am very, very, I trust my intuition at a very, very, very high level. Sometimes I'm wrong, but I'm willing to go to that place. I'm willing to jump into the water, not knowing if there's a bottom there, not knowing if it's cold, because I'm trusting my instincts. And my instincts come from all of my experiences in life. So the older I get, I think the more clear my instincts become. But at that point in time, I felt great. I had conversations with her, and I said, this is the woman I'm going to marry. Did I know at that point in time this was the woman I'm going to marry? No, I had no idea. But then, like, we literally stayed up all night talking. Like, I think all night talking. And then I tried to sell her a bill of goods, and I'm going to take her try to fly her to the Bahamas or something stupid like that, like the first night we met. And then we went out for crabs, and then we started dating. And was it all sunshine and roses? No. No, I was in a 6-year relationship, and I was at some point in time a little confused. Like, is it Nicole, or like what's going on here? And once again, I trusted my instincts.
That seems to be the theme of this. A lot of trusting your instincts and your intuition throughout this episode, and it's something that we don't hear too often, because everyone says there's a secret sauce, there's a secret recipe, and there's a lot of.
Dude, I'm willing to fail. It's not about trusting my instincts because I think I'm going to be right. It's that I don't care if I'm wrong.
Wow.
Like, and I think when you grow up, it's the biggest thing, like having kids. The biggest problem that I think we do as parents today is we don't let our kids fail enough. It shows up in sports, it shows up in school, it shows up in their peer groups. You know, we have scripted play parties with our kids so that we can try and pick their friends because we want them to be around certain people. Like, we don't let them just go out and fail. I failed a lot. I didn't have it easy growing up. And once you experience pain, it's like, okay, well, how much worse does it get? Like, what are you going to take from me?
Mm-hmm. You talk about you have a lot going on in your life. In fact, another one of our very dedicated viewers and followers, Brianna Diaz, who happens to be my sister, my lovely sister with 2 beautiful babies, Cody and Leah. She asks, how do you balance everything in your day-to-day, such as you talked about helping others, you talked about living and fulfilling your dreams, being there for your family. Do you have it all planned or go with the flow? And I know you go with the flow, like we have that figured out. But like that's a great question, because there's something deeper in there of, again, does it come back to your intuition? What is it that you're able to balance everything?
I'm not
able to balance at all.
No, I'm constantly out of balance.
Can you explain that?
I haven't seen my wife all week. Like, other than like, okay, great, have a couple. Like, literally, I think Nicole and I have had maybe, like, I don't even remember, what is today, Thursday?
I'm glad you knew, because I didn't.
So last night I was out. Tuesday night I was out. I think I was out Monday night. I don't think I've had more than 30 minutes of conversations with my wife all week. Like, all week, I don't think I've talked to her for more than 30 minutes combined. I don't think I've talked to my kids for more than 30 minutes this entire week. I'm so far out of balance.
So tell us how you're going to balance that.
So I'm going to, like, tomorrow things settle down a little bit, and I'll get to see my kids. I get to go to soccer. Saturday, I get to see my kids all weekend, Nicole all weekend, or all day. Well, not even all day Saturday, because we're teaching the class Saturday. But Sunday's Mother's Day, so I'll spend the majority of the time with her and her family and my kids. And we're planning a vacation next month, so that'll be a whole week. But I know it feels like right now, it feels wrong. It feels weird that I haven't spoken to my wife for more than 30 minutes this week. So it's like, okay, I got to pivot back into, now I'll probably be an asshole to her this weekend or something because I'm constantly in balance and out of balance. It's just a constant, but I trust how I feel. How am I feeling?
And one thing that we've discussed, John, you actually said this to me, and it made one of the biggest impacts that I've ever had when teaching, because I'm able to share this story, and it goes directly in line with Brianna's question, and that is, remember when you shared the story of having to identify what matters most to your children?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In a time of living in counterbalance, and maybe only having 30 minutes with your children or 30 minutes with your wife, Nicole, a day, could you share with the audience how you were able to identify what matters most?
I think it's, and this comes back to programming. Like, we're programmed to believe through our experiences that certain things are supposed to happen. It's supposed to be this way. But it may not always be accurate. I'll give you an example. A hug. A hug for some people means one thing, and it's a very positive experience. And for other people, it can feel a little bit awkward, like it's just not normal. So if I'm not a big hugger and my wife wants a hug and I'm kind of like, I get like Nicole, I get squirmy. I get squirmy when someone hugs me. Like, it's like, it makes me feel weird. But if I do that, she might take that as, oh my gosh, he's pushing me away, he's distracting me, or not distracting, but she might take it as a negative because her programming says that hugs are supposed to be positive. My programming might say hugs are a little uncomfortable, which comes from my programming as to why a hug may or may not be uncomfortable. Shoot, I forgot what the question even was now. ADHD alert, squirrel.
John, can you please share the story of how you identified what matters most?
So you just ask questions. Like, okay, as a father, what is the one thing I could do as a father that would mean the most to you? Because we make assumptions that if we do this for our kids, that's being a good father, or that's being a good mother. Why don't we just ask them, what would make you want to have a great relationship? What's important to you? Because maybe to my son, it's playing Legos. But maybe to my daughter, it's giving her a hug. Maybe to Nicole, it's 30 minutes of just being together and John not talking, which is hard. So you ask the questions. And so few people ask those questions. Like, what's important to you? And does that mean I always do it? No. Like, I'm not, dude, I can be a real jerk sometimes. But I'm trying to ask the question. I'm trying to always do the right thing.
And here's the thing. If you go back to those who matter most to you and you ask them, what matters most to you? And they say 30 minutes of uninterrupted time, no cell phone, no technology, when this whole time you've been taking them out to dinner or you're taking them to a ball game, or it then just switches your entire relationship. And how, if you have this moment of counterbalance like you have this week, you're able then to identify, well, if I only have 30 minutes with this individual who matters so much to me, I now know how to impact them. And that's super important, because this entire podcast episode has been a lot about relationships and how they've been so imperative to one's journey, especially yours. And I find that the next level of relationships, it's not about what matters most to us, it's about what matters most to them. And that's how you can take a relationship to the next level. It's like that servant leadership mindset.
You know, one of the things that I've been guilty, trust me, I've been very guilty of it as a parent. And if anybody else wants to call in, bring it on. Like, this is cool. I love having like new guests on here. I've been guilty of this, you know, as a parent, and I hope I never say it again. Like, from this day forward, Nicole, I'm not saying I'll never say this again. I come home at night at 10 o'clock and my kids say to me on the weekend, well, Dad, you're never home. And I say, we're going to Disney World. And we couldn't go to Disney World, you know, if Dad didn't work so hard. Maybe my kids hate Disney World. Like, maybe I should ask them, maybe they would just rather Dad not have money to go to Disney World and just come home and hang out with them for a little bit. Because maybe that's not that important to them. And I can tell you, in my relationships, just the older I get, the more I realize those things aren't important. It's not important to my wife that I buy her a Rolex. She could care less. Matter of fact, she'd probably be mad at me and throw it back at me. So I can't, like, and I've been guilty of this with her. You know, I forget about an anniversary, so I make it up. I'll buy you something bigger at Christmas. But maybe she just wanted a card.
John, could you go back to, we talked about the 3 phases of your life. Could you go back to when you were younger and looking at your parents and how, if they asked you that question, how could that have impacted you?
Oh, yeah. It'd been weird.
How would you have responded?
So you mean if I can go back to being 12 years old and like really answer that question? Like, I can go back in time.
Yep.
What would I probably have said? Time, attention, experiences.
So not material things.
Heck no. Heck
And
no.
so John, looking at your life right now, if a business partner, a really good friend, or a family member, someone close to you asked you, John, what matters most to you right now in your life? How would you respond?
People, other people. My relationship with God, my faith, and the people that I'm surrounded by. You know what? In Brentin, I talked to you about this today when we were coming back from Red Day, because we had an opportunity to spend some time with some very, very wealthy people, extremely wealthy people the past couple of days. And one of them had a lot of wealth and lost it all at a later stage in life. And it's a very lonely place if your life is driven by money. And now, because the money can be taken away from you, it can be gone. One bad business decision, one bad investment, a bad market, it can go. Your relationships should stay with you. My wife has been with me when we had no money. My friends that I would call true friends didn't care if I didn't have money. Matter of fact, I could have no money and no business, and I'm pretty certain that I could still have a lot of people that would support me, would help me out. So it is the relationships are the most important thing to me.
Thank you for sharing that. And one thing that I commonly do is I ask others, or I tend to ask others, I'm not perfect at this. And it wasn't until I was asked this question that I decided to add it to my arsenal, which is, what can I do for you right now?
Yeah.
So John, you talk about what matters most to you are relationships. And if someone was to ask you, well, what can I do for you right now that would mean the most? What would that activity or that action be?
help somebody else out. Like if someone says, what can I do for you? It's help yourself out. Understand who you are at a deep level, what your passions are, and then B, help someone else find that out. So like this whole journey towards fulfillment thing. Try and get to know yourself at a deep level and then pass that forward to someone else.
It's interesting because I just asked you, what could we do to help you? And you just spun it back around on, well, help yourself or help others. And I believe that's a strong testament to who you are at your core. And I've been very fortunate to have spent a lot of time with you. And I can tell you that I've asked a lot of people out to lunch because I don't have it all figured out yet and nowhere near. And I'm consistently asking others out to lunch who are more successful than me. And I always find myself comparing them to you. And what I mean by that is that servant style of, like, you're at lunch to help me, which is interesting because most people I ask to lunch, they're looking, well, what's in it for me? What's in it for me? So I find that really admirable how you're always looking to spin it and help others. And by doing that, you're gaining such a strong influence and following. And I don't believe it's portrayed enough, even in these podcast episodes, of how much how much you really care about others. So I just want to give you some love in that sense of, like, you've now set the benchmark.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing. When we had the party a couple of weeks ago, which, like, in a weird way, it's like, why I don't want, like, it's not angry, but I think I actually said to Nicole, like, if you threw a party for me, like, I'm gonna be pissed off. But it's not angry. It's, no, guys, it's not about me. I don't need this. Like, it's about everybody else. Like, it's like, I don't want to be put on a, like, dude, I like to be in front of the stage. I mean, trust me. But it's not about me. Like, and I don't like it to be about me. Because it's not, I'm not doing anything. I'm just being me. And I want everyone else to be them.
Right. And you mentioned earlier that your quote unquote end game for life is that you look at your funeral and you want to know, and you would want the most amount of people there and the message and so on and so forth.
And I've already designed my funeral.
And we're about to get into that.
Nicole knows, like, how my funeral is supposed to be conducted, how I want it to be.
So before we get into that, I do want to ask something real quick. Yeah. I want to real quick watch the parallel worlds of, like, thankfully we're not at that point with your funeral. Though we did just have a surprise birthday party for you, and we originally invited like 15, and then it got to 30, and then like 45, and like everyone showed up, and we just blew out the whole restaurant with tons of people from friends and family and business partners. Could you connect those two parallel worlds? Because you had a surprise party with tons of people who love you and care about you in a room, and I saw the emotions in your face no matter how much you tried to hide it. And to, like, did you see a parallel between that and your end game being like what your funeral might be like?
Oh, wow, that's kind of weird. Yeah, but yeah. 100%.
How did you feel?
So I told Nicole later on that night, like, it feels really good, but I don't understand it. Like, I don't understand why. I understand why it feels good for me. I just don't understand why I'm deserving of that. Almost like in a guilty kind of, like, you know, I don't deserve this, because I'm just a vessel for somebody else. Like, I'm not doing anything special. Like, I'm just doing me. But yeah, it's one of the best feelings in the world. I mean, I mean, it's an indescribable feeling. It's like one of those things that you want to last forever.
Yet it goes by so quickly.
And that's why you have to pay attention to it, because like the older I get, the more that I actually, and it sounds morbid, but you start to think about, oh boy, there's a chest pain. Is this it? You know, or you start to think about those things. Like I literally think about, okay, how much time I have left. You know, statistically, I might have another 40 years left. Dude, 40 years is not a whole lot of time. Like, and that's like statistically, like I treated my body pretty bad for the first 30 of them. So I'm probably going to be the lower end of those statistics. And what are you going to do with it? And what really is going to make the biggest difference, and what I know I'm very, very clear of, is it's not dollar signs. And once again, it's not that I don't like money or I don't like things. I do. But people and feelings and emotions can last forever. Like literally, like I can live forever. I can live forever through other people.
You just mentioned that it was such an incredible feeling, indescribable, and it went by so quickly. And one of the things that I asked someone before my sister got married was, what's one piece of advice that you would give to someone who's getting married? And they said, it's such an incredible moment in life, and it goes by so quickly that if you just go to the back of the room and you just stand there for 60 seconds with your now significant other and just hold their hand and look around at all the friends and family and the love and smiles and just soak it in.
Yeah.
Be in that moment for a minute. Can you relate that to life?
Well, I can relate it to my wedding because, and I'd be shocked if Nicole's not commenting on here right now, because that's how it was. I don't even remember Nicole remembers that her hair looked really, really funny. She didn't like her hair, but I really don't. And there are a couple funny things that happened that we both remember, but for the most part, I don't remember a whole lot of that day. It happened so fast, so quick. And yes, my life has felt that way. Like it's happened so fast. And the older I get, the faster it goes. Because there's fewer new experiences that are out there. It's like, oh, okay, I've been through that. And that goes by really fast. So like what seemed like a month goes by like a blink now. Like it's just hyper speed. And that kind of freaks you out a little bit, because then it's like, whoa, like this is going by way too fast. Let's slow this sucker down. But you can't slow it down. Like you can't slow down life. Life happens. And most people don't want to think that deep because they're afraid of the pain that might exist within them. Most people are afraid to ask themselves deep questions because sometimes they don't want to find the answers, because that's a scary place to be. So it's
Could
like,
you give us an example of when that happened to you?
oh yeah, I have an uncanny ability to block things out in my head. Natural defense mechanism, whatever, but I can hide pain like that. Like, it was when I had to become okay with who I am, forgive everybody around me that I ever believed harmed me in some way. And I had a lot of people that I thought it was, and take accountability for who I am. It's not because of my mom. It's not because of my dad. It's not because of my teacher. It's not because of my boss. It's not because of the president. It's because of John. Like John put himself in this position. And when you take accountability for that, that starts to say, okay, well, I need to be okay with who John is. And right now, I have my toenails painted. I don't really give a shit. I like my toenails painted. Sorry, guys. And you can judge me, but I really don't care. Because I'm okay with who John is.
John, if you look at the 4 phases of your life, or the 3 phases that we kind of talked about earlier, and to restate for our newer viewers, it's that beginning phase of being a rebel and learning, to that next phase of money is now significant, to this newer phase of money isn't it, it's my purpose and what I can do for others and the impact that I can leave. It's almost like you can look at those in 3 different forms of weddings, of how it may have gone by so quickly, you blinked your eye, yet there's so many lessons to be learned in each. So Jonathan asked, what would you say is your greatest accomplishment, your greatest takeaway from each one of those 3?
Wow. Great question. So, wow, that's a really good question. So in my rebel phase, stupid phase, trying to become popular phase when it comes to like friends and stuff like that. I took away that some people come and go. It's like they have a seasonality in your life. And then there's some people that stay forever. So kind of pay attention to those people that are really there for you. In the success phase, or whatever, that money, success, you need to have a job and nice cars and stuff like that. I realized that because I lost a lot of those things, that can be taken away from you. So don't put all your eggs in that basket, because you might not have any eggs at some point in time. That was an ego phase too, by the way. My mid-20s, ego. My dad told me that I have an arrogant SOB, or became an arrogant SOB, because I thought I was hot shit. And that stuff can go. It can be taken away from you. So I learned to don't put a whole lot of value in money, because money can come and go. In this next phase of purpose and why and fulfillment, what I've learned so far, because I've learned more of who John is, of what makes John happy. And that sounds very, very selfish, by the way, like what makes John happy. And I've learned, because of the other 2 phases, because it's progressive, that I did this and that didn't work. I then went after this path and that didn't lead me where I am. So I don't need to worry about those 2 paths, because that's not the answer. So continually to seek what's going to happen next. I have no idea.
And that's actually right in my next segue is, what do you think is next? Or do you see this as the final phase? It just has so many.
Final phase. I have no idea. I still don't know what I want to do when I grow up. It is for me, and it goes to this. I want to write a book. That's really what this. Don't know what the book we call it. It might be called Welcome to the Machine. I want to write a book to basically share my almost like what you're talking about, like the seasons and the experiences that I've had, and what I've learned from each of those experiences that have actually been a piece to my puzzle. Like, if it wasn't for me going through that experience, then this wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't have happened, and this wouldn't have happened, and I wouldn't be where I am. So talk about the experience, because I'm open. I'm okay with everything that's happened in my life. Share that experience and what I took away from that experience, and how that experience has actually been a blessing and not a curse. So that's what the book's going to be about. I want to figure out how to scale impacting people, mentoring people, whatever we call it, on a larger level. And maybe it's through this show. I don't know yet. But how do I do this times 50 or times 100? I want to have a facility where people can come, much like I've talked about before, where young people, old people, whatever, can come, and we have mentors, and we have speakers, and we have books, and we have, the funny thing, Brentin, is I've read a lot of the books, and if you had to name 10 of the best business books or success books, like, we're probably going to have like 3 or 4 that are in common. And the more of them you read, the more that they're all saying the same thing. Like, they're all saying the same thing. So there are some books that have been like, that stand the test of time. So I want to have this facility where people can come, they can congregate, so that they can surround themselves with people that want to impact their lives, and then spread that as big as it can go.
And you just announced 3 or 4 major things that are ahead for you. Which of those matters the most, and why?
Oh, you're asking good questions.
That's why you asked me to come on. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Ask the question again, please.
You just named that, you just rattled off that you want to come out with a book, you want to scale your impact in the world through the podcast. We know about your expansion real estate business. There are a lot of things that you're excited to do here in the coming months, coming years. Which of those matter the most? Which one matters the most, and why?
Scaling a way of impacting the most people, because that feeds everything else that I want in life. Whether it's business, it's relationships, it's experiences. The more people that I can impact, the more that every other area of my life improves. My health improves by impacting other people. I have proof of that. Like, I know that for a fact. My finances improve by impacting other people and helping them out. My relationships improve. Like, everything in my life improves the more that I can impact and help other people.
So what do you see as your next step towards that?
I don't see a next step, because I see concurrent steps. I'm going to continue this podcast, because I believe, or whatever we call this thing, I believe that the more people that can share kind of their journey, the clearer that as a community we all come together. So everyone becomes better the more people we can have on the show. Like, everybody benefits. So if we can have 10,000 people talking about this, we can now impact millions of lives. But I think that happens concurrently with the book. So I would say it's probably this podcast or this show or whatever the hell we're doing right now is probably the one thing, or the 20%, because everything else stems from that.
And John, are you making money off this?
No.
Do you find that interesting? Look at your phases of life. If this was phase 2 of the 3.
Because what amount of money am I going to make on a podcast that's going to change my life? None. There's no amount of money that I'm going to make off of this podcast that's going to take me away from wanting to impact others. Now, what money would allow me to do is it would allow me to impact. We'd have better equipment to do this podcast. We'd have access to probably more speakers. Because hell, if I had a lot of money, I'd just pay people to come on the show. I was just like, dude, I'll give you $5,000 if you come on the show because you can impact we can impact more people.
So am I not getting paid?
Hell no, you ain't getting paid. Yeah, you're getting paid. You get paid through experience. Like that's the best pay that we can get is paid through experiences of other people. It's the highest form of currency. Like people will talk about like if I could only predict the future, go talk to people that have lived before you. Like there's freaking shell toe Adidas that are popular now, dude. They were popular 30 years ago. Like I had them when I was breakdancing.
This is why we're interviewing you, because history has a tendency to repeat itself in some form or fashion, and breaking up your life into phases makes it more clear. So John, the one thing that I did brush off because I was avoiding that bunny trail in the time being was you're about to go in on how you've already envisioned your funeral and how it's going to go down.
It's funny. I'm actually looking at my eulogy. Like I'm looking at it right now.
Care to share a few pieces of it?
I'll read the whole thing.
Oh, how long is it?
It's not long. It's like one paragraph, but I can read pretty fast. So, hey, Eric, what's up, buddy?
Hey, what's up, squad?
Eric, as soon as he's done reading this, we're going to bring you in for a live question. What's up?
No way.
So some of you have heard this story before, but I'm going to tell it for anyone that hasn't listened. I'll try and be quick. And 2010, I'm broke. And I'm not living under a bridge or anything like that, but I was not able to pay my bills. Let's put it that way. And I didn't know who I was or what I wanted. I was at this crossroads in my life. And I literally came into my office and I spent like 8 hours. And I've read like success books and all this stuff, but I literally spent 8, 10 hours. I don't know how long. I was here all day. I was at the office all day. And I basically tried to put out an outline for my life. And it wasn't about money. It wasn't like, do I want a Bentley or do I want anything? It was like, who is John? And it was good things and bad things. Like what are my flaws? What am I good at? What is my passion is one of these questions. So this is in 2010. We're now in 2000. I've never altered this, by the way. So this is the original version of what I was thinking in 2010. And it's very interesting because when I look back on it now, how little it's actually changed since 2010. And at that point in time, I was at a place where I didn't know how I was going to buy formula for my kids. If money were not a I got to read some of this other stuff. Sorry, guys. If y'all need to get out, but I'm going. If money were not a consideration, if you were taken care of financially and could use your days any way you wanted to, how would you spend most of your time? I would spend my time consulting with other successful business owners, helping them achieve their goals and dreams. I would spend my time with my wife and kids, enjoying them in their element, helping them to become the best version of themselves. What's the most important piece of career advice? And hey, I have this. If anybody wants a template of this, like I'll give it to you. The only suggestion I can make is don't rush yourself through it because it might be one of the most important things to do. What's the most important piece of career advice? Do what you love, find your passion, and never, never quit. What recurring activities cause you to feel distracted or off purpose? Doing paperwork, maintaining an organized place, taking care of cars, lawn, house, cooking, cleaning, all those things I don't like, but I do like those things. I just don't like to do them. What activities do you find most enjoyable? Helping other people, fishing, playing with kids, and then one is something I won't mention on the show.
John, give us a quick summary of like, what is your eulogy saying in like one sentence?
Oh, no. Yeah, I wasn't reading my eulogy. I was reading some other shit. All right, here we go. Here's the eulogy. Today is not a sad day, but a joyous one. I want today to be a celebration of life, not of death. I enjoyed life, lived it to the fullest. I laughed, I cried, and I loved. I succeeded in many things and failed at many things, but above all, I learned from many things. We never know what curveballs life will throw at us, but can be assured that they will come, and we have to be prepared. As I lay here today, I want to pass a couple of things on to those people who survived me. Never give up. You'll be faced with challenges, some of which may seem insurmountable, but you can never lose faith. Keep trying and you will succeed. Never lose sight of your dreams. Your dreams are what drives you, what keeps you alive. Without dreams, we're just like jellyfish. Love yourself and love others. Love is the basis of life. Take pride in who you are because God created a perfect being when he created you, and you have no flaws.
How does that make you feel reading it to a very large audience?
Like, dude, I'm crying right now, and I don't cry. Because, see, this is the crazy thing. Like, like when I say, like, you don't know how much time you have, like, I could die tonight. And but when I wrote this, and the reason that I wanted to kind of write this is because I've been to so many funerals that are sad. And I don't want my funeral to be sad. I want it to be a freaking party because I like parties. And when you go through this process and you're clear and you're living that, I'm okay if I don't wake up tomorrow. Because I've done it, John, like Nicole would say, John did it his way. And I'm very, very clear about that. Some people think that that's freaking like morbid, like who the hell wants to write their own eulogy? But if you really want to find your freaking purpose in life, go to that place. Go to that place and write what you hope people are going to say about you.
You have me tearing up because,
like, if you're not true, if people aren't true to that, then what are you doing? Like, if they don't know what that is, I mean, that, even looking back on that, and it's funny, it hasn't changed a whole lot in 7 years. And over those 7 years, I've gone from having money to being broke to having success, but that hasn't changed.
you have me tearing up because I look at it, and as you shared that, I just realized, you know, I wouldn't be near content if today was the last day, and that does hold quite a bit of weight. And it's one of those things, as you alluded to earlier, it's something that we don't actually want to think about, or at least I don't want to think about that because of the fear that comes along with it.
What are you afraid of?
Although my eyes might be dark right now because I have terrible lighting, yeah, it's packing.
There's nothing to be afraid of. What people should be afraid of is they don't do that. That's what I'm afraid of. Like you asked me earlier, like what keeps you going? What keeps me going is that I'm not doing that.
Let me ask you really quick one more question, and we'll bring in Eric for a change of pace. Eric, the last question I want to ask you is if you could summarize that eulogy into one sentence, because John Maxwell has preached having that one liner for your life. What is that eulogy saying in layman's terms, in basic terms, in one sentence?
Giveth and ye shall receive.
Fancy. What does that mean, though?
It means give freely of yourself, of everything. Actually, no, I'm taking this back. I don't know. I brain freeze. Have faith. Never lose faith. And help another person. That doesn't make sense. I don't know, dude.
It does. What advice would you give to someone who could use some guidance on finding faith?
Wow. Woo. So I'll give you the guidance that I gave Nicole at one point in time. And pray on it. Because if your question, if you have faith, by definition, you don't. So if you don't have that, then pray on that and see if it comes to you. Nicole got lucky. She prayed about it and slapped her in the face the next day. And then trust it. Trust it. Like, I know what's supposed to happen is going to happen. That's faith. And I'm not afraid of that. Like, I have nothing to fear, because the worst thing that can happen to me is that I die and I go to heaven.
Yeah. I never thought I'd say this.
I'm not trying to be a preacher. I'm whatever.
Nah, I never thought I'd say this, but lyrics from a Macklemore song came in my head, and he just said things got so messed up that he had to pray. So
I did that.
Break down before the breakthrough.
That actually happened that exact thing actually happened in my life. And a lot of demons went away in my life because I opened up and just prayed. It wasn't a dream, but demons were taken away from me.
Thank you for sharing that. All right, EK, Eric Kolash, special guest, special question. You're on the air, dude. And after your question, we're gonna head toward that finish line. So thank you for the willingness to ask.
Yeah, cool. It kind of sucks because John, you already answered my question, man. But I guess I'll ask another one. Recently, I had I'm a car guy, right? Recently, I've been working on my car, and we've been filming it and posting it to YouTube and stuff like that, and I love it. And it's kind of like one of those things where it's like, if I pursue doing that kind of stuff, it'll take focus away from the thing that's keeping me alive, paying me monies. And I've talked to a lot of people, and they're like, if you chase 2 rabbits, you'll catch none.
Unless you're really fast.
Yeah, but my question is, is there a scenario where I can do both? I mean, there probably is.
Yeah.
I just want your advice on it,
yeah.
Time blocking, probably, but is there some sort of in between way? Because there's probably a way that I could blend them both together.
Well, A, you can blend them both together, but B, we all have the same amount of time. We all have 24 hours. We've heard this before. You can you set a budget for your time. So every time that I spend doing this is time that I can't spend doing this. So in theory, if those 2 things were that important to you, you've got 12 hours each day for each one of those things. Where else are you spending your time?
Yeah, true.
So if those are the 2 most important things, then you shouldn't be doing anything else.
Mm-hmm.
You should never have a TV on. like seriously.
Yeah.
You should never ever have a TV on unless you're looking at your own Instagram page on TV or something like that. But you're making a decision every day of where you like I'm glad you're here, but why are you watching this? Because this has nothing to do with cars, and it has nothing to do with making money in real estate. So why are you watching this?
Looking for answers, I guess.
Why not just go do that though? What do you need? Like, you're not going to find the answers looking somewhere else.
True.
You're going to find the answers by going all in on those two things.
Yeah.
Like, why look anywhere else? If those two things are really that important to you. What most people just bullshit themselves. Like, they think, and I'm not using you as an example, Eric, but I love to use this when it comes to buying things. Like, oh, like that car is so important to me. I'm gonna do everything to that car and blah blah. But the truth of the matter is, that car didn't mean shit to them. It's a feeling or an emotion that they thought that car would provide. So if I wanted to, am I doing this podcast because I want to become popular, or I want viewers, or there's a small part of me every once in a while that says, okay, why don't I have 10,000 viewers? But I really don't give a shit because I love this. Like, we've been doing this for an hour and 50 minutes, and I could go for another 3 hours because I love it. I don't really, it's not about anything else. It's because I love it. Like, and if someone loves something, they're just going to do it until all hours, all the time. Now, do we have to do things that we don't necessarily love? Yeah. I had to cut my grass. I hate that shit. But sometimes you have to do it. It's like, I think there's something like you work hard to earn the right to work smart. Like, first you just work your ass off in those things. You learn from it, dissect it, I like this. I really found out the more that I got involved in doing the podcast, I will eventually come and figure out, what do I like most about the podcast? I know what I don't like about this podcast. I don't like having to do anything to do with editing or production. I don't like to do any of that stuff. But what I love about it is communicating with people. So if I could spend all my time working on a podcast, what would I do? I would just communicate with a lot of people and talk to a lot of people, because that's what I love about it. I don't want to do anything else when it comes to this podcast. I just want to communicate with a lot of people and learn as much as I can, absorb as much as I can from each of them, and then pass that message along to other people.
Gotcha. I feel like I just need to get a little more clarity on me as an individual on because.
But you won't get clarity by thinking about it.
Yeah.
You'll only get clarity by action.
Yeah, so remember that conversation we had a while ago about the jigsaw puzzles?
Yeah.
And you only get the pieces from doing the experiences?
Yeah.
The only reason why I even am considering doing this this car video channel thing is because I went out there, hit up a friend who likes video recording and editing and can do it in a day, and he has a garage, and we did it. We went out and did it, and it was a great time. It was everything I thought it would be. It was fucking sweet.
When you're passionate about something, other people see it. And passion leads to, it's like a magnet. Because so few people have it, that those that do have it, it becomes a magnet for other people. And the more people leads to more opportunities. So if I'm passionate about cars, my business is selling shoes, other people are going to see my passion, which is going to build relationships, which then is going to turn into me selling shoes. But until that happens, maybe I have to go out and bust my butt going door to door selling shoes. because it takes a while to build a community.
Yeah. I love that. That's awesome.
But we shouldn't be doing anything else then.
It's a waste of time. Yeah, if you're not doing those two things.
Thank you, Eric, so much for your questions.
Appreciate it, guys. You guys are awesome.
You're awesome.
You're awesome.
So, John, finish line time. Tell me.
Oh, don't ask me that question.
I'm not. What was the theme of this episode, in your opinion? And what did you learn?
The theme. Like, I'm much better, as you all can tell, from rambling than I am just spitting out like a word here or there. But I think I heard three things over and over again. One was faith. Relationships. And loving other people. Because
intuition too.
Yeah, and intuition, which I think comes from those other things. Matter of fact, I don't think I could have intuition without faith. That's why people don't trust their intuition. It's just John's belief. You can't trust your intuition if you don't have strong faith, because then you're going to question whether or not your intuition is right or wrong. And you get stuck in this land like, oh, I don't know which one to do. Is it this way or that way, or this way or this way? I have faith that my intuition is going to lead me in the right path.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, that was deep. I just gave myself like a deep kudo, like, because it almost sounds contradictory, but it makes perfect sense in my head. Like, I have faith that my intuition is going to lead me in the right direction.
It's awesome. And my head hurts from that.
Yeah, that is.
Replay that a few times. I'm sure J. Lee Tuck Productions will clip that for our viewership, and we're able to play that micro content over and over and over again. Deep, deep stuff. All right, John, here it is. Final question of the day. You asked this to all of your viewers. It's time for your viewership to ask you this, which is, what does fulfillment mean to you?
Knowing that I gave it my all, whatever it is at that time. Love. It's hard when I have to answer this question. You know what? If I can summarize into one word, it comes back to love. And that sounds weird coming from me, because I never talk about things like that. But if I could summarize one word, it comes to love. And spreading that love. Love doesn't mean like physically necessarily. It's just accepting other people for who they are and loving them as who they are and experiencing that together. Like, you can love a lot of people. Like, it's weird. Like, you know, it just means different things. But the more people we love, the bigger my life gets.
In honor of Mother's Day, my mother always says, just love unconditionally.
Yeah.
Actually, I wanted that to be the last question. I have to ask one more. John, we have Mother's Day coming up, and this would be a pretty impactful big Mother's Day for you. Could you explain your thoughts and feelings going into this Mother's Day and how your journey with your mother can leave the viewers and our audience with a final Newman nugget for today.
Ooh.
Remind them what.
Yeah. So my mother was diagnosed with cancer December of 2015, and she passed. Here's the nugget to take away. And it goes back to what we talked about. You don't know. You don't know. Everybody has resentments against people, or whether it's family. Dude, let that shit go. Like, because there's not a day that will go by where I won't have a regret about something with my mom. And when you talk about people that die, they said, their regrets, like, dude, that shit's real. Like it's just love yourself, love what you do, and love other people, because it can be taken away. And none of that has to do with money. None of that has to do with take advantage of every single day. With the people, with yourself, and with what you do. Because if I didn't love what I did, then I could spend more of that time, like, if we have like a love battery or whatever, like, where do I spend my time in love? Wow, this is weird. If I talk about fulfillment as love. I need to love what I do, because if I hate because the time that I'm spending doing that is where I could spend it loving people. So if I don't love my work, then why am I spending my time there? Let me go find love somewhere else. And I can find love with my relationships. I can find love with myself. So, like, be very, very careful of your feelings and what you do, and trust that, because it could be gone. You don't have time to waste doing shit, Gary Vee said it, doing shit that you hate. I don't care if that's relationships, work, whatever it is. You don't have that much time. And the older I get, the more you start to realize how little time that you actually have. So spend that time very, very wisely.
Thank you, John, for everything that you're doing with this podcast. On behalf of all of your audience, friends, and family, we love you and we appreciate it. I really enjoyed being able to flip the script and interview you, and this was a really, really impactful episode. Thank you.
Nah, think it's not me. It's everybody else that watches this, because everybody adds a piece to that puzzle. Like, every single person could be a small piece, could be a big piece, could be a medium piece, who knows? There's a piece. And don't take that for granted. Don't take that for granted at all, because if it wasn't for that one piece, then your puzzle is incomplete. Cherish those pieces.
Thank you. So could you sign us off Newman Night style?
Dude, I forget how to do this. You got me so off. So hey, everybody, this has been an interesting episode of Welcome to the Machine. And we'll have the podcast out on Friday. And next week we got some awesome guests that aren't about me. And keep coming back, because, like I said, this can be so powerful, because it's about one person sharing their experience with nothing in return for it. Nothing, and I don't expect anything, with the idea that it's going to help somebody else. And that's a pretty damn cool thing. So keep tuning in, please. And invite other people.
How can people get a hold of you?
So Instagram at Newmanites, Facebook John Newman, or right through this, whatever this is on. What is this? Newmanites? I think this is I think his Facebook page is Newmanites. I'm not big on Snapchat anymore. I'm going more towards Instagram. So I would say Instagram at Newmanites or Facebook at Newmanites is the best way to reach me.
Awesome. All right, John. It's been a pleasure. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thanks, bud.